So we'll do that one. This is a good question. So the key element in SQL, yeah, is the primary key. The primary key must be unique for every row, and that's what identifies something. Consider it like your social security number. That's what actually identifies you as you in this country. It's not your name, it's not your birth date, it's not your height, eye color, hair, all that stuff can be replicated by other people, right? Your name, someone else most likely has Tyler Blaze as their name. Taylor. There's probably other Tyler too, but there's a Taylor probably too. Sorry, a Taylor and a Tyler. I am the fourth Clifton Chonier, Clifton Ramey Chonier. So I am the fourth Clifton Ramey Chonier. There were 4 others, only 3 when I was alive, but now there's only 2 left. At least in my family. And that's just my family though. So there was 4 Clifton Ramey Choniers just in my family. Same exact first, middle, and last name. So not great for identification purposes, my name. There was actually a fun little story during the beginning of career devs during the first couple cohorts, where apparently some of my students, when trying to find me on Facebook, accidentally friended my father, because on Facebook, I go by Clifton Chonier. I actually go by my official name, Clifton Chonier, because I don't really care for Facebook, and it's a great way for me to know how they found me. If someone says, "Hey, are you Clifton?" Yeah, sure. Yep. What are you looking for? You're not my friend. Got it. You don't actually know me, because if you knew me, you know I don't use that name at all. So I like that idea, because on LinkedIn, on Facebook, if someone messages me as Clifton, then they've never met me in person. It's a great way to know who has met me in person. If they message me CLIF, then they also don't know, because my nickname is 2 Fs. I go with 2 Fs in my nickname, even though Clifton has 1 F, I use the double F nickname. So that's another hint that somebody most likely has not talked to me in person, or doesn't know me on a more personal scale, because they did Cliff with 1 F. So I use that as a technique. My dad, on the other hand, he did do Cliff Chonier, because he was Cliff at his age. His dad was Clifton. His grandfather was Clifton. His dad was Clifton Jr. He got to be Cliff then, technically. He kind of got the name as Cliff. And then I became, damn it, I'm going to regret saying this, but I became Cliffy based on my family. My mother definitely was the one who kind of streamlined that and pushed it, but that's kind of what I became. I was Cliffy. That's how he differentiated me between my dad. So yeah, people started looking for Cliff Chonier on Facebook. So I find my dad and they'd friend him. So all the creative students from like cohort 1 through 3 would befriend my dad. Like, I'm getting all these people friending me on Facebook, and I think they're looking for you. I'm like, what? At the same time, actually, another worse story for me though was I actually applied for a card, one of the credit cards or something a while back, and my dad actually got the phone call or an email or a letter about him signing up for a card. But it's like, I didn't sign up for a card, and like, that's a problem. I don't need my dad getting phone called about credit cards or stuff that I created or I signed up for. So that's been a problem that I've had to deal with as someone who shares a name. And that for me shows bad database management and stuff like that, bad system managements. So yeah, your name, it has to be primary. A primary key must be unique. And so your primary key in America's system is your social security number. There's only one of that. That's what's going to, that's what differentiates me between my dad. We have different social security numbers. In your database, that does not have to be an ID number like 1 through something. That can be a UUID, as we mentioned before. And that's not in order. That's not any sort of like this. There is a pattern to it, how it generates them. Make sure that they are unique, every single one, because it involves time and space too. But overall, the concept there is that every single one's unique, but it's not an ID that's in order 1 through 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. But any field can be a primary key as long as it is unique. And so if you make it unique, so we could say that email addresses are unique, that only one record with this email address can exist in our database. And so because of that restriction, that can be our primary key. And how that would change our database is on our profile, then we would link the profile to the user through the email account. And so it'd be user underscore email instead of user underscore ID. And so that's how we link those things together. And that's called a foreign key on that record. So our profile has its primary key, which is the ID number, and then it has the foreign key called user ID or user email in this case, in the example I'm giving. And foreign keys are what allow the system to understand its external item that connects data to it, that allows it to connect that data and branch it and connect it. And what's interesting is you can have multiple foreign keys on a single item that points it in multiple different areas, point in different ways. For example, our developer had multiple foreign keys. It had the avatar foreign key, it had the user foreign, and it had the user foreign key, and it most likely, and it had an approved foreign key for any approvals that it made. What I will clarify though on that one is that I probably actually know that one's not a good example. The approved, because yeah, they approved the developer profile did not have the approve ID. Collections, if anything on your relationship thing in the JavaScript system is a collection, that table doesn't store the ID number or doesn't have the foreign key. A foreign key should always be a single entity. And so the approve entity is what held the foreign key. The approve entity had a foreign key pointing back to the developer and a foreign key pointing to the geeky like that was liked. That was approved, as we called it, or liked. So that one had two foreign keys on it. Geeky likes had one foreign key, which linked it back to the originator. Yeah, so that's kind of how the structure works. You have your foreign keys, and that's how it works on the SQL side of things. With JPA, you don't need to worry so much about how that connects too much. If you want to know a little bit of it and get the basic gist, one-to-one, a foreign key is always a single entity, and so one-to-one, whoever maps it has the record. So most likely in our system, because our developer mapped it to avatar, the developer had the avatar ID on it, most likely. I believe so. I'd have to double check that, but it would say that one of those two items, either the developer would have avatar ID or avatar would have developer ID. Depending on how you code it is what JPA will actually do. One of them has a foreign key connecting it to the primary key of the other entity. On a one-to-many, the item that has the one has the foreign key. So our developer to geeky-like was a one-to-many. A geek out has one developer, where a developer has many geek outs. In that case, the geek out has the foreign key because each geek out has a single ID on it that links it back to the developer. Instead of a developer trying to manage all of the geeky-like, because you got to think scalability. Is it easier for each geeky-like to manage one ID on it, or is it better for the developer profile to store potentially hundreds of thousands of posts, IDs? Which one sounds better? Storing one ID, right? Per row?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's safer. And just, we already know that's also better for databases, or just better for storing data. We talked about how, yeah, arrays in Java are limited. That's because they reserve a space in memory. So same thing in SQL. That's getting a little under the table. If you want more detail on how data is stored on SQL and why it's so easy to grab stuff, we can definitely talk about that another day. And then many-to-many, neither one of those actually has the foreign key. So on a many-to-many, neither entity actually has the foreign key. The connector table has the foreign keys in it. So in our languages to developers, many-to-many, we had our developer languages table that was generated. That has the foreign keys in it. Neither developer nor language has the foreign keys.
Interesting.
Any other clarifiers on that?
No, I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna definitely chew on that and look at that and do a little bit more digging on that myself as I look at what I've written so far.
Definitely. And if there's any more specific examples you want to clarify, how does this connect? Feel free to bring those up and do share screens with that. Like if you need to be like, well, how do these two connect? Or how do these three items connect? That might help to make it a little more clear too. You can always bring up an actual example. Like, here's what I have. I don't understand how these work, how these are connected in the tree. And that might be another way of helping you and everyone else to understand how they connect.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. Any other questions, clarifiers? Richie stepped away. All right. Got time for one more. Come on, if you've been holding back, we know. Starting next week, I'm going to start calling on people to see if I don't have questions. I'm going to start calling people to say, hey, show me what you've been working on. Because again, having questions shows me you're working on stuff. Not having questions makes me wonder, what have you been up to? All right.
I got something, Cliff.
Go for it.
I was just watching, I think Springboot 8.
Cool.
So my problem right now, for
Mhm.
some reason, so I got this controller here, rental status,
Got it.
and trying to follow that code that you were writing in the video.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to do is just get the status of the rentals.
All right.
So similar to the Geek Out
Hmm.
that is in the video. Let me run this application. For some reason, when I try running this Git mapping here,
Mhm.
it just shows up as an empty array. My post works. This works here.
All right.
I'm able to post. Let me show you. So here's all the statuses.
So what is that? That's statuses. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm post one for
Got it.
ID 11.
Mhm. Got it.
Now, when I do the get just for that particular ID,
Mhm.
so, yeah, still comes back this empty array here.
Okay.
Nothing from customer 11.
All right. All right. So let's take a look at your code. Let's find. So first off, you're trying to find multiple, right?
Yeah, all the just the rental status for
Yeah.
customers.
My first thing I'm wondering about, does this sound like it's going to return plural? Does that sound like
No.
a find multiple? No. What can I add to that to make it sound like it's going to find multiple?
Find customers.
One way to do it, but there's another term that JPA prefers.
Find all.
That's it. And then find all by ID. So this function right here is probably not generating a good query. So let's go to your repository. Let's update this to find all by customer ID.
Okay.
Find all by customer underscore ID.
Underscore.
Over here still.
You
Hold
want to
on,
do
still
that
here.
in your repository first.
Still here
before
first,
you
yep.
go
So,
into your
not done
actual
yet.
file.
Because find all by. Get rid of the word customer for a second. Yeah, you can get rid of that by there, yeah. Then customer underscore ID. You can try customer ID. I haven't known that worked before. This is the way I do it. And then I on that should be small. Yeah. So again, this right here should match a field inside of rental status, right? So rental status has a field called customer, right? So we look at the rental status entity. Does that have a field called customer?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Good. And then the underscore says inside of customer, find the field called ID, and that's what I want. So that's what this is doing.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So it's
So that should fix it.
run it.
I'm surprised it took that though. I'm very curious what the SQL query came up with that. There it is. Oh, you
Hold
do
on.
need to add it. You
Here it
already had
is.
them, but there they all are.
Here it is.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing wrong. Okay.
No worries. Just the formatting of how that thing works. Yep. So yeah.
Good. That's
The
good
first, so
clarification.
the main formatting I'm learning about this right now. So if you want to keep it on screen for 2 seconds. Grab my tablet so I can draw a little bit. The formatting I'm seeing on this so far is what I'm coming up with to help myself understand how this works. Make sure I type it out right. is, so the function formatting I've been figuring out. The first item is data type, is the data type that it's going to give back. And there were two entities for that. It's either find or exists. Remember those? Those are the two we have, exists. This one returns the data type, the actual entity. And this returns Boolean. I'm curious, did anyone actually find if there is a count by or count all by? Keep trying to remember if there was that. I don't know if anyone's actually confirmed that that exists or not.
Oh, what?
Yep, they do. They have a term, so I think it does do count by. I wonder. Yeah. I do believe they also have JPA, I do believe has this as well. So find, exists, or count. And that'll give you a long, I believe. So you do that. That's your first item. Then you do the an optional. So do it like this as multiple.
Count is returns like it's like a length. It's like how many records you have, right?
Yep. No, count will say how many did I find based on the rest of the query.
Oh, okay.
So find will actually give you the entity. Give you entity or entities based on the other item. So exist will tell you I found at least one. And count will tell you how many did I find based on the query you gave me. The second item is multiple or not. Do I want multiple? So I can do find, and multiple only has one option, all. So I can find all. Exists doesn't really need all. It's unnecessary. I think you can put it there and it won't really change much. Not including all just does a limit of one. So that's the SQL query. If you don't include the word all, the SQL query has a syntax called limit one, where it'll only find one entry. So exists can have all, exists all by, but it's weird to put it, so you can just do exists, because all it's going to do is just find one anyway. Count, on the other hand, will take, again, same thing, all or not. If you don't include all, count will only ever return 0 or 1. But if you do count all, it'll return the number of how many it found that qualified the result. After that, you do by. That's a static term. You have to include that word by if you want where. You can technically do find all, and that'll just return a list of the items, or find, return, no, you can't do find with no by. Yeah, if you do find all, that'll return everything. You can't do a find without by. So by is your where, is your conditional. And then here you just put conditions. And that's where all your requirements are for how we want to find. So keep this syntax here. On the left-hand side is what do you want? And on the left side, it's what do you want that, what are the specifics of that data you want? All right, so that's kind of the formatting of these. On this side of the by, you should not put any sort of entity fields or conditions or clarifiers there. Make sense?
Mhm.
It is something I'm still looking into, because the fact that it took find customer by is interesting to me. I want to dig a little into that. I was expecting that to error. So the fact that it didn't, I am curious if it'll do some sort of query with that, and if it could manipulate it and learn a new way of writing these that doesn't need SQL, that could be useful. That maybe I can return a data type here that isn't part of this, but I would be surprised if it does. So I don't think it can. Because this is, yeah, this is the formatting I'm aware of. Data type, multiple, by, conditions. Any questions on that?
No.
Does it make sense why this one works now, Richie?
It does. Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Thank you,
All
Cliff.
right. No problem. All right. I think that's it. 7 o'clock, last call. All right. Pull up a timer.
We're still recording, by the way.
Yeah, let's pause that for a second. Recording. We're back. Good. Back to our React application. IntelliJ, make sure it is running. So I do believe it is. It is good. That's good. Let's go ahead and npm run our app. Make sure that's still functioning. Sorry, npm start that one. Not run. Yeah. So all that there, good. That still all works, which is fine. This is very weird to have this as our home screen, but it works. I would recommend not leaving this as your home screen, of course, when you start doing your app. Just a recommendation. That's all the pretty faces. Cool. All right. Somebody? No, I did. Okay, good. Awesome. So what we're looking to do. So first off, I'm going to start just keeping this plugged in forward so we can do this more often. A couple things I'm going to do quick. Get this going. So once we log in, we know we go to the developer page. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So log in. Address. 20. So you see all the accounts. What we want to be able to do is I want to be able to click on one, and that's going to load a profile for that page where I can click on add person or block. So we add or block. It's going to be a very basic page. We'll probably use a placeholder for the image. So you can also see a cool little tool I use also called, let me see, I remember the site. Website for it. Page that I use. This one. Yes, this is what I use. So this is a very cool little page you can use where you can get placeholder images that look like this based on whatever size you want. So you can actually request for specific sizes to make sure that they fit what you're expecting. Simple as that. So this will give you a 150 by 150. You want one that is more different, so you can get some that even have text on it. There you go. If you want one that is a certain size, you can give it something by something. So width times height. So it goes. So I use this a lot to kind of, if I don't have images yet and I know I want them, I can put a image there that's a certain size that I know I want, so I can at least see how everything else lines up. That makes sense?
It's a good tool.
Yeah, I like it. So, just be aware though, it's via placeholder.com. So definitely be very, very aware of that. This is not placeholder.com, it's via placeholder.com to get the actual item you want. So, cool. So we'll use that to save ourselves. Why am I? Why are my tabs not being shown? This. Thank you. Okay, that's weird. All right. So back to our React app. So what we'll do now is we're going to be able to click on one, and what we want to do is show a profile page. And this is something I like to do too. I like to do little like layout designs of what I might want. Slack, anything important?
Am I the only one that's seeing that black
Nope.
bar?
Nope.
I keep forgetting that's there. Slide that up a little higher. That is my draw buttons for annotations. That used to not show up, so I'm not sure why it is now.
I guess you changed some configuration because we are seeing your buttons too, like the buttons for Zoom.
Zoom, what?
Like when you go with your mouse up, we can see that it scrolls down the. Yeah, now it's vanished.
So this gets rid of it. But if I
Yeah,
do
it's
that,
gone
you
now.
see it.
Now it's gone.
Oh, still gone?
Yes,
Weird.
very.
Still there? All right.
No.
Weird. I don't know what the deciding factor is then. All right, so that's not me. Got it. All right, good. So we're good there. All right. Yeah. What I like to do sometimes, as I was saying, I'd like to sketch out what my page is going to look like, so I know what maybe components I might need. So for a profile page, yeah, that was bad, but it's fine. Profile page, if I want to do like a header section here, which can have the avatar, the image, and then their name. And then down here, I'll probably do like cohort. And then I'll do some placeholder text. So about me, lorem ipsum. Everyone know what the lorem ipsum, right? When I say that, what that means?
No.
It's like
Ah.
a text.
Yeah,
placeholder.
lorem ipsum.
Lorem ipsum is place. So just like we have the lorem ipsum image, placeholder image, we have something called lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is your placeholder text that most systems use when there's text they want there and you don't want to see it. So let's see what it looks like.
So you don't have to write a paragraph of something
Exactly, but
in
you
a
can-
P tag. You can just put this nonsense in there.
Exactly. And it,
Oh,
will,
yeah,
it helps
okay.
you to see lorem ipsum dolor sit amat. And this kind of text here helps you to begin see what it would look like with content, with text of varying word length. That's one of the main benefits of this item. It's text of varying sentences. I want to keep saying strings, and that's not the word I was looking for. Of varying sentences with various different lengths of characters, everything from 2 characters to multiple, punctuation and all that stuff. So it's a really great way to see what it would look like with actual like user generated text without having just like randomly hit on your keyboard, because randomly hitting on your keyboard, you're either not going to put enough spaces in, you're going to put too many spaces, too many special characters maybe, and it's not going to look like actual text. It's not going to look right. This gives you good text that is very useful to use as placeholder text. And you can grab everything from paragraphs to just words. 50. And then what I like about this place is if you don't want it so obvious, you can have it not show lorem ipsum to begin with. Because lorem ipsum, as soon as somebody sees that, they know exactly what it is. So I do like this site because if you don't want it so obvious, you can tell it don't start with that. And so it'll pick somewhere random in the text generator. You can I want a certain number of words. So you never get a paragraph. You can just get a certain number of words, sentences, and all that kind of stuff. So again, a site I like to use a lot, Lipsum.com. That's it, right? I always forget it's not lorem ipsum. It's Lipsum. Lipsum, yep. So again, these are 2 very useful tools I use for my website when I'm just trying to get static data to be there until I can replace it with dynamic data. So again, placeholder.com for static images until I'm ready to put dynamic images in, and lorem ipsum for static text until I'm ready to put dynamic text in. Right now, our backend doesn't have an about me section, and so our profile pages would look very, very dull right now. This is going to help us make something that looks a little bit more nicer to look. And so again, feel free to use these tools as well in your sites. So you can make sure that as you're developing them with some items. So yeah, if you don't have any sort of avatar system prepped for your system yet, or don't know what image to put places, use a placeholder to start with. Another tool I'll give you guys for those where you want an image, but it's going to be a static image, maybe not one you'll use, you're going to definitely keep it. And splash.com is a website for high quality, so high definition, open source images. So all these images have been posted here for free to use for any app project, including commerce projects. So even if you're actually going to make money off of it, even commercial products, you do not need to give you don't have to give credit, and you don't have to pay for the images. So you won't get any sort of like cease and desist, and they have no images on it. They do ask that you support them. So if you do use the image, so if I do the download button, you'll see that they say thanks. So try to put this on they want you to put this on the website somewhere. It is nice to do so. If you're actually going to use this for production purposes, we consider doing that somewhere, putting it somewhere, but you don't have to. They do not require it.
Support my Patreon.
There you go. That's one of the reasons I like the site. I tend to use things like one of my common searches are like abstract. And this is a great way to get like header images or static or splash images for the top of a web page. So for borders and stuff like that,
That
you
thumbs
get
up
some
looks
really
really
nice
cool.
stuff. Yeah. Desktops, wallpapers, all that kind of stuff. Background text, background images. Another term you can use is minimal. And so you get some very simple backgrounds. These could even be backgrounds for like the actual web page itself. So I clicked on the stock items, the actual paid ones. Right? Don't do browse the image. Oh, make sure to skip the first section. Yeah, some of these can be used for like the background of your actual website itself. Like this one could actually be a background of a web page. It's very, very clean, but it's not just static white or static color. And adding this little texture can make a website look a little nicer. So something to consider. But with those, I would also make sure you look for items that are minimal, but also continuous. That can be another term you can look up. So continuous images, some of them will put them in right. These don't look like they did. Dang it. Could be get away with. Surprised these aren't working the way I thought. There's another term for it then. That's not. It's probably not the right term. Then.
Yeah, I used to remember that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Pattern. Oh.
A pattern works, but that might work. But yeah, you want to find one that like, yeah, that way you can put them one after the other and it won't, no one will see that cut line in there.
And good ones are good ones are set
tiling.
up. Yeah, good ones are set up that all four edges of it will all, when you put them all together, they'll be seamless. Seamless,
Yes.
seamless images.
That could be it. Seamless. That might be the term I was trying to think of. Yep, that looks better. Yep, these look better. So these will most likely, if you put them side by side, you won't see a slash. Now these are the stock ones, so these are definitely gonna work. These are from iStock, but that one doesn't look like it'll work. This one looks like it might work. Potentially. I'm not sure though on those edges. From there to there, I'm not confident, but something to keep looking into. Yeah, this one I feel more confident in, except for the color. Dang it, nope. Unsplash might not be great with the seamless, but there are places you can get seamless images from. Just again, last thing I'll warn you guys for websites. Again, this isn't something that you have to worry so much about, but it's a practice I like to do just because I never want to get called out on it. Is if you do a Google image search. So again, we'll do seamless here. You're looking for that and you go to images. You've got to be careful that some of these might be what are called licensable. One trick you can do, of course, is on the tools, go to user rights and do Creative Commons. This means you can use it anywhere, only for free though. If you want something that must be available for a commercial page, so if you do plan to make this website something that makes money, you must pick a commercial license. These are
a royalty-free search in the search bar.
Yep, I think that's what the commercial. I think that's what Creative Commons does actually. I think Creative Commons means you can use it for commercial because it's open to the public for anyone to use at any time. These are open source, in other words. These ones, yeah, must be paid for, I think. These are key items. Look, they've changed the terminology though here. I'm not actually annoying because they used to call this free use. I'll have to double check these two now to figure out, double check them to make sure, because the goal is to find ones that do not need to be paid and are free to use for commercial services, in other words. So they are free to use for commercial. I can tell you this one is not. This one's not free to use. It has the
watermark.
I forgot the term. Forgot the word for it, but the watermark kind of thing. Main thing is just being aware of what you're looking into, and especially for things that are going to be looked at, be careful to use copyright material. That's all. Like I said, I've never gotten hit by stuff, even when before I used to do these kind of things, but I try to use what I'm allowed to use first. If I can't find something, then I might sneak in something that's maybe not the best, except with the mentality, of course, the idea to change it before it goes public, before it goes to production level. So especially during dev and during testing, don't panic too much about it. Here we go. Travis gave us some information. Creative Commons license is one of the several public copyright licenses that enable the free distribution of otherwise copyrighted work. I think that's the one that says, yeah, you can use it whatever you want, and even for commercial services. So ACC is licenses using when another wants to give other right to share using both the with creators. Cool. Thanks for that, Travis. Awesome. Main thing is most for me is just I want to respect things. That's my other reason for doing it. I've heard bad stories and I like to respect, but again, it's up to you guys. I've definitely used items or found things on Google that I forgot to do the search for, and I've never been called out for them. So I do want to make sure you're not like panicking if you do. So don't feel like you're gonna definitely get hit. But I just rather not.
Stay
I'm
away
more-
from Disney.
Yes, definitely. 100% stay away from them. You'll definitely get hit if you use one of theirs, I swear.
With Disney?
Disney is the Disney.
Oh,
Nintendo, actually,
yeah.
no, Nintendo's worse actually. Disney's bad, but Nintendo's the worst. Use anything Nintendo related and you're screwed.
Get a big Mario on the front of your page.
Be done in seconds. They had that. There was that Battle Royale Mario game that went up, and I think it lasted for like what, a week, and it was already taken down. And then there was the Pokemon game that didn't.
Yeah, it's a nice Pokemon fan game you got there. Whoops.
Mhm. Yep.
I bet it cost Nintendo a lot to put Sora in their Super Smash Brothers game because he's technically owned by Disney.
So much.
Good question, actually. Yeah. I didn't think of that.
I wonder who would have paid for that though. Square
It's-
might have paid.
I
More
don't know.
money
I
to
was
get
gonna say I
in
don't
there.
know if Sora is owned by Disney's. Oh no, he.
No, he is. He's owned by both, but because
I was gonna say he's owned
I
by
believe it
both.
was under Disney Interactive for the licensing. He is technically
Yeah.
more Disney owned than Square owned.
All right, I was curious.
Kingdom
Like, I know
Hearts
I've
is actually
seen.
more Disney owned.
Yeah, because I know I've seen Sora on a stage in a Disney production, and what bothered me about it is they actually used a mask for him. He has a fake head. Why? He's human.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw that video. I'm like, why? He's human. I understand Donald and Goofy being fake, but Sora's human.
I
Couldn't find a human.
Yeah, I think in the announcement video for the character
Yeah,
Sakura,
Matt
I
dies.
briefly explained the legal dispute that they had.
Interesting. Because Sora doesn't look Disney. Sora looks very much Square character, except for the feet. The feet makes him Disney.
Yeah.
Agreed 100%.
Trying to get away from games. Yeah, we want to click on this. We're going to have avatar and name in a nice banner. And so we can even use one of these unsplash images for a banner for the profile. So let's pick go away you. Thank you. There we go. So here we'll put in.
We're Hasbro here. They send cease and desist orders to people who use their properties.
Jeez. Seriously? Why does this feel like there's less here now? Okay, there we go. We got more now. Why
There you
did
go, that's
technology
fun
go
stuff.
so blank? That was weird. Let's see, something for a banner. Could use that. I usually want something a little lighter though, because I don't want to mess with the colors. So, hell, we could just go full on geek and go that.
I like the one above it. That's cool.
This one?
Yeah.
I'm worried about the contrast of colors. There's lights and darks. That's the downside. You got to remember that we're going to try to put text over it, and that can be hard to see without a shading.
That's true.
And we don't want to have to deal with shading. So,
You've got Cliff's icon down there.
what?
You got Cliff's icon. Keep going down. I saw it on this one, didn't I? Yeah, right there. The headphones.
you
Subtle. Again, we got the dark thing there.
Didn't you just do a search by color through Google if you're doing like one of the image-based searches?
Yeah, but again, I'm not confident
Matrix
there.
was too dark, huh?
Usage rights.
The Matrix picture was too dark.
Search.
Oh,
by
the Matrix
name
picture would have been fine. This one would work probably because the color, the green is also dark too. So this might actually work. Yeah, that would work fine enough. We can just use this for now. It's fine. Download. We can also see how to do an image. That out of the way, get that out of the way. Let's go back to our, so that'll be our header that we have. So then we'll put the avatar and username right on top of that. So that'll be our, so again, we got our, let's use some of the other tools I have now. Here we go. So that's our page. We have the header at the top. This is going to be our avatar. And the background of this little header section, or the this banner at the top, is going to be that matrix thing. So all our developers will be part of the matrix. There we go. Then we'll have the user's name in nice in white, so that way it'll show up. We'll do cohort And then probably on the right-hand side of the cohort, we'll have add and block. And then the lorem ipsum about me. Later on, we can also edit to do that if we wanted to. These could be where all the geeky likes get loaded that they've posted.
All the geek outs.
Geek outs, right. Thank
How
you.
hard is it to, how hard is it to put languages in?
We do have languages. We just haven't made it so anyone can actually put their languages in. So no one has languages under their name, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
So we don't, unless we do it through the API. So we could do languages, but yeah. Over
Oh.
here also, we'll probably want to add our friends. Maybe here, we want to put friends. Put friends here. Again, once they're friends, I'll get to see the friend list, remember? So when I first visit someone, friends won't show. But once I've added them as a friend and they've added me, so on Taylor's account, I should see his friends. Or Taylor should be able to see my friends if he goes to see me. Because I have two, Taylor only has me. Hi, sorry, Taylor. So Taylor should be able to look at my account and see that I have two friends, and I should be able to see that Taylor has one. When we first visit someone, though, we should see nobody. So when if Taylor was to click on like Cliff 10, he'll see that Cliff 10 has no friends, or it doesn't know if he has friends. He would be able to see the friend list. The friend list won't show. What do we want to show the friend list? On the right-hand side of about me or underneath, above? What do we want to show that?
I like the way you've,
We like this layout.
yeah.
All right. Something else I like to do, I might identify this as being like a 2-to-1 ratio. So that way I know that this is going to take up, and that works with, remember how flex works. So flex 2, flex 1. So this takes up 2 to 1 space. This takes the whole space. This one, again, I'm just going to do this as a space, something called space in between. So there'll be no flexing with this stuff. This is going to be all the way to the left. This is going to be all the way to the right. So this will be its own section, So we'll look into how those work. Let's think of how many components are here. So, and are they separate components or are they just part of one big component? So this right now is considered one big component. I personally would say, let's see. So right now we have the one big component called profile. So this is profile. Are there any other separate components? This is profile.js. Anything here might be a separate component.
Geek out would be a separate component.
All right, that's going to be multiple things. This is probably a separate component. So geekouts.js with geekouts inside. Anything else?
Couldn't they all be separate components? Like even
I
the
would say
header,
that-
the cohort?
Oh, everything definitely can, and that's something to be careful of. Everything here can be a secondary file. So yeah, we could make this its own component. The avatar could be a component. Little image here could be a component. This line could be a component. This could be a component. This could be a component, which this probably friends might be a component. Because again, that's going to show multiple things that we want repetitive. So definitely anything that's going to be multiple items is mostly going to be a component. So friends will definitely be one. I'll tell you that. But I don't think this blob of text here needs to be in a separate file, right?
No.
This line here probably doesn't need to be in a separate file. This can stay in the profile. So this section can stay in the same file. The header is something that could or could not. So the header item is definitely optional. That's something that could or could not be put into a separate system. The trick here is there any other place in my site that I might want a header with a background image that has a image and some sort of text? If yes, then that might be something I want separate so I can reuse it. If I'm never going to reuse it, then I may not need it separate. That makes sense?
Yep.
So the deciding factor would be either complexity, usability, or both.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Very
the
good
other
argument. Very good argument there.
And the other thing that would dictate this, or how the page would be laid out, is that the Laura Ipsum, the cohort, and the banner are all related to the developer.
Mm-hmm.
And the friends can be everybody, because everybody has a friend. That can be just pulled in and out. And Geeks Out is for everybody, but those components up there are only specifically for that one developer, per developer.
Not only that, what I can argue actually, if you think about friends though, friends is really what? Friends is a list of
other developers.
Right. And do we have a list of developers somewhere already?
right in front of us.
Thank you. Please don't take long on that one. We're literally looking at a list of developers. And we could probably reuse the developers component and just give it a different list. Give it a list of developers to display. And so it's something we can consider. We might be able to reuse what we have there and maybe reuse the developer component. Maybe not the developers component because it has that API call in it, but it's something we consider. We would have to look at how we set that up. Because we might be able to, reuse this whole developer list for our friends list. And so geek outs themselves, probably the same thing. Once we create it, it's something that we can most likely reuse somewhere else, like a top geek outs or current geek outs, all that kind of stuff, where we can put the site-wide geek outs on that, or a filtered geek out result by just giving it a different list of geek outs to display. Right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. If this stuff is not just developer specific, then it's something we can probably use somewhere else. We're just feeding it different data. So that's why this definitely is reusable. This definitely reusable. This one is maybe because we could maybe have another banner somewhere in our site, but I don't see it being that key because of this and this.
Well, that's
What I
was
could
thinking about the banner. I was thinking about the banner could be put here now. And then later down the project, whatever, 2.0, whatever down the project, you're like, oh, I have a banner. I can actually use that, and I could just put that someplace else and then make that into its own.
What I
component.
could see, and if we want to do this, we could. I could see a banner item that does props.children. And so the banner though is in charge of doing a background image that is a certain size and does something called cover. So I can give it an image and give it some props. And that way it'll display whatever image in the background I want, and then whatever I want inside of it, on top of it, it will do that for me. So I could see that as being a thing. So just be aware of it. I feel like that's something I've done before. And I've actually created a component for it, but I don't think it's part of my common. So, but yeah, that is definitely something I've done before. So it's something we could do. We don't need to. It might save us some time to not do that right now. It's something we could do later on if you guys want. We'll probably keep that the same for the moment. But out of this, yes. What I would see is, if I was looking at this myself, I would start with these two, knowing that these two are going to be definite components. Geek Out and Friends are definitely separate components. These items are going to start as a standard item, and then I could look into seeing if anything here could be pulled into another component. All right. Cool. Now let's convert this over to an actual text, to a couple notes. So I don't want to do that there. Let's switch over to, here we are. So we have a blank screen to pull it on. There we go. Here, let's create a new component folder called profile. And looking at this, we know we have profile.js. So let's do profile.js. We'll do the standard stuff we do before. So import. What's the first thing I should always import?
React.
There we go. So let's see how many of you guys remember the default structure for a component. Let's see how many of you guys remember it. What do I do next?
Counts. Come on, guys.
Profile.
Equals open parentheses props.
That. What's next? Someone else? Any more voices?
You're gonna need a return statement.
Yep. Parentheses for you guys. What next?
We need the export.
Yeah, the export at the bottom.
That is needed. Yeah. Export what?
Profile.
Default profile.
Default
Oh
profile.
yeah, default profile.
Default profile. Anything else? Because it's still yelling at us. What's kind of that basic that I do here?
Well, you need to return something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to
And what's
return.
what's the basic thing that I'd like to return? Again, you guys can return whatever you want, but for me, again, it's the H1 and then the name of the item. That's my common thing. Just that I'm returning what a component just contains an H1 of the name of the component. That way I also know if I do load this somewhere else that I see I loaded this component. It's a great way for me to know that this is what it is. this is my basic that I always create. Whenever I have a component, I always start with this. After that, I then grow it. Profile.js. We know that the friends is already, we're going to try to reuse our developer system. So we're not going to create a folder there yet. We know the geek outs thing we're going to use later. We don't actually have it. So we're probably just going to put a to-do tag there for this. We don't need to create it yet. So we're going to to-do tag. We're already going to, all these items are going to be part of it. So we're not going to put anything else for now. With that, let's just add some notes though, what we want to show. So here in the return, and not the return statement, because that's going to be Java, it's going to be HTML based commenting. So here we do /* // so we have multi-line, display a header, avatar name, display cohort number, left, right. Then display copy and the friends. Display. That's kind of what we're doing, right? And then cool. All look good so far. Sense so far. All right. Is there any data that we need to be able to maintain?
We have to get the developers, basically all the developers information that we have to them.
Oh yeah, the developer's information, right?
Yeah.
And if we click on one, so what I can do, of course, if I click on one, what can I make sure I get? What do each of these have?
A public developer? Or am I thinking too far ahead?
Thinking a little too far ahead, I think.
Okay.
They have their IDs based on the database.
Yes, we should have the IDs, right? Did I still print that? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Good. Take a look. We have the ID of the developer.
Mhm.
Now, what we'll say, if you take a look at here, we're definitely sending down extra data that we don't need to our front end. So remember that payload thing we did on just Tuesday?
Mhm.
You may want to think about a developers list payload. We can convert everything here into just that stuff. So something to consider because we definitely don't need all this data. So something to be considered. Done. So when we click on one, we can make sure that that link identifies the developer that we clicked on, right? If we get the ID of the developer we clicked on, we can do what?
Go to their profile.
Okay, we'll go by pulling that information from our backend, right?
Yep.
We just recently set up a endpoint to pull a developer's profile, right? Good, so we can do that. So if we need to be able to pull data from another location, we need what?
We need Axios.
You need Axios. Good. What else we need? Not Jim.
State.
Why do we need state? Right.
So it can re-render the information.
Render. Great answer on that one. Not just, I was expecting you to just say we're going to store it. No, that's the best reason why we need it. Yeah, we want to be able to re-render the information once we get the data from the back end. We're able to write that data to the front. And so state lets us do that. Yep. We definitely need to use state to be able to store that data too. Store it and make sure it re-renders once we get it. Anything else?
Use effect.
Correct. Why do we need to use effect? Save you. Does anyone else know why we need to use effect? Did Travis give you guys the answer? Maybe you guys can remember what use effect does. Travis gave you guys use state and use effect now. Someone else help him out.
Yes, I know what it is. I'm not saying
I
it.
know, but you already answered once. You gave us Axios. So
Yes.
you're safe. Someone else. Come on, people. Why have we used use effect before? What did it do for us?
Was it that it enabled our styling to be able to use flex and to center the content?
Fortunately, no. Use effect has nothing to do with styling.
Was use effect the way we were able to update the page based off of a given like variable or whatever being changed?
Yeah, it's also the function that gets run at least once when the item gets loaded on the system. And that's when we can add the logic to pull data from the back end. Remember? Use effect allows us to pull data from the back end at least once and then decide whether or not to do it again if and depending on a variable, like you said. Yeah, there's two use cases for use effect. Use effect does two things. One, run code one time was called mounting. So mount.
On mount before.
Mounting. What?
This was on mount. This is what they had called on mount before.
Yep, on mount. Yep. So we can run code one time on mounting. That's when the example for this is use effect function empty bracket. So when you have a function that when the dependency of use effect is empty, that's a one-time function that runs once on mounting. All right. The other variation is to use effect once on mounting. Again, any re-render where a dependency is updated. Effect. Nope. There we go. Right. Okay, good. So in this case, what happens here is that this use effect gets run once on mount and then never again because it's not listening for anything else. This use effect will get run once, but then it'll also get run any other time a re-render occurs if this variable caused the re-render, any variable inside of this array. And so you can put multiple items in there to dictate that this item will run again. So anytime foo is modified moving forward, it'll also rerun this. So keep in mind, it will still run once on mounting. It still does run once on mounting because technically this does get modified by getting its initial value. So it is changed. It went from non-existent to existent. So it still will run once on mounting. However, the difference between these two is that this one will run again on any situation where a re-render occurs because foo changed. So those are the two instances of use effect.
So if you don't use use effect, it's pretty much a static page. Use effect keeps it updated and rendered and always up to state.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Or at least it won't do any logic. You don't need use effect. You can still have dynamic components in React. It just won't run any logic on re-render.
Okay.
If you want logic to run, that's what use effect does. Use effect is there to run logic because it'll run a function. All right.
So if you have the second one, do you need the first one?
Maybe. It's dependent on the situation. Again, this one runs once and that's it, never again. This one runs once, but then will also run anytime foo is updated. So you may need something still that runs once at load and then also run another something else whenever foo is updated. So you could actually use both. You might still want both. That's very dependent on the situation.
But if the second one runs once, does it run once before any re-rendering or only upon re-rendering?
It does run once at the beginning, but then yeah, it also runs again on every render. So this code you only want run once. If you put it in here, you would have to add a conditional that clarifies to only do this once, then some way to detect that this second run is a re-render after the on mount. So that's why you still might want this. This code only runs on mounting and then never again. This runs on mount and then any other time foo is updated. And so if you put code in here that only should run on mount and never and not during any of the other re-renders, you would need to add logic here to make sure that code doesn't run. Where in here, you don't need that logic.
Because of the fact that if foo never gets updated, it doesn't re-render again because it doesn't need to because it's never updated.
In this example, yes, but if I have const bar, set bar. If bar gets updated, this will not run.
Right.
So yeah, this runs on the first, when we first load the page. If foo gets updated, this does not run, but this will. If bar gets updated, neither one of these run. But any code down here does get updated. So if bar is displayed anywhere here, bar will update.
Oh,
if
all right.
foo's updated, yeah. This is just to run logic. It's not about displaying information unless, yeah, no, this doesn't display anything. This does not return components of any kind. It's to run logic. But bar and foo both will trigger re-renders of this information here as long as it's loading there. All right. But
Oh,
you can
okay.
also have,
Use effect does not dictate re-rendering when it calls the page up again.
it doesn't, yeah, no, it doesn't dictate re-rendering. But if you do set state inside of a use effect, that will trigger a second re-render.
Right, okay.
And that's why you got to be careful that you don't modify a dependency inside of use effect, because then that will trigger another go ahead with it. So be very careful setting foo inside of use effect.
It seems like it was sending an endless loop.
It does. It can. Yeah, it definitely can. Especially if every time you then go again, it sets foo again. It does. Yeah, it can cause an infinite loop. That's why I'm clarifying that. This you have to be very careful with because it's monitoring foo. But if you set foo, that changes foo, so that triggers a new re-render that this will then monitor and then change again. It can be a pain. Yeah, definitely be careful on that. But yeah, so that's again, the main thing I'm trying to clarify is it's very common actually to see two different use effects, one with no dependency, one with a dependency, because again, if we have code we want to run only once at the time of mounting, but then we have other code we want to run every time foo is updated, I don't want to have to put logic in here to make sure that the code should only run on mounting isn't run on those foo updates. This makes sure of that. That makes sense, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying, that this is going to run once, so why not just use this? But again, I have to make sure that next time it runs, it doesn't run that code I don't want to run a second time. So. Awesome. Anything else to think of? Yeah, again, you can see multiple use effects there. They're monitoring foo. You can even have it another one here that does use effect. R. So if either one of these are changed, this one will run. So if foo's updated, this one won't run, this one will, and this one will. If bar is updated, will not run, will run. So that's kind of the way to look at it. It's a or situation here. So it's not an and, it's an or. So only if one of these two are modified, this will run. So it's an or logic here. I'll make sure that's clear. Sound good? Where a dependency is updated, not all dependencies, a dependency. So some clarifications there. I'm actually unfortunately going to clear this up, so you'll have to refer to the video if you want to relook at this code or copy it into another file, but this code is not useful here, so we get rid of it. First, the use state is we're going to use const use state. Nope. We'll do developer. State.
Do we also need the auth provider also?
Ooh, good question, right? We probably, because if we want to pull that developer data from the backend, we need to be logged in, right? Yep, we're going to need that. So let's do context. Also, I just realized my current notes on React are old and I need to pull up again. How do I pull data from a URL? 1 second. Because they changed it on me. React navigation. Remember how to do that with React navigation, right? We're using, wait, what are we using again? React Navigator, navigation, right? React router, whoops, wrong one. Not Stack Overflow, because that might not be up to date. So put the link in, changed it. Params, yeah, then get the params. All right. Cool. We're gonna look at that in a second. So, yeah, use state. And then here we'll do a to do full ID from moment, we're going to go ahead and actually create the object that we're going to get from our backend. So we can pre-fill that if we want. We can also set it to blank, but I highly recommend putting in here the actual object to expect to get from the backend with all nulls. That way, it's or at least an empty object. So at least with an empty object, we can test for if the key exists or not. If you leave it like this and you try to access a key, what happens? So if I don't have an object here to set developer to default as an object, if I try to do developer.name, what'll happen? Still yelling at me, why?
I would think it wouldn't find it because you haven't defined it up into the state.
Oh, so it's not yelling at me anymore. Yeah. So if I try to do this, what's it going to tell me? It's not going to actually work. So tell me what I'm doing here is I'm doing const developer. Because there's nothing in use state, this is kind of what I'm getting here. What's it yelling at me for? Why?
Is
Oh,
you're
it's
assigning your
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. No. There you go. So they do developer name. Oh, damn you. There you go. Cannot read property name of null because null doesn't have keys, right?
Right.
Developer. I'm going to do. Can't do that actually. Dev equals an empty object. We still know that name doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
Well, let's see what happens if I do this now. Developer name developer dev dot name. Look at the difference. We get undefined instead of a type error. The type error is going to crash our system, right, or cause a big problem. Undefined, I can test for, right? Right. I can do not dev dot name true.
That equals true. Ooh.
Dev dot cohort. Not dev dot cohort gets me false. So I can use the not symbol to check for whether or not that key exists, which, like we've said before, when I pull data back from my backend, there's no guarantee that the user gave us their cohort number, right? So I may not have any cohort number to display. So it's good for me to be able to prepare to say, hey, if the cohort exists, display it. And if not, don't display it in our system here. Right now, we're of course assuming that all of our users are giving us a cohort, but in the future, maybe they don't. So, and again, in your systems, you might have optional data. And this is what's useful about pre-filling it with an empty object. I can test for that key before I decide to display. Sound good?
Mhm.
Okay. Even then, if I do attempt to display it through React and React sees undefined, it'll just print blank. So undefined is blank, whereas a type error is an error and a crash. So that's key. Okay. All right, so now we have our use state. I'm also going to do const loading, loading, use state. By default, I'm always loading something when I first load. So far, so good.
Mhm.
Good. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is now that I have my notes up, let's make sure this works. There it is. Good. Use params. Good. So we can send data through a link using something called params prop. So we can then pull the use params parameter from React Router DOM to then also grab those params. So I can do params equals use params. And then I can here, I can even do ID equals params dot ID. And do dev ID if I want. Make sure it gets sent like that. Sound good? Again, this will make more sense once we create the link, but just understand that because with the React Router DOM, the more recent version of it now, we use the system use params to be able to send data through a link on our React page. So we can have dynamic links on React using params. It's kind of like props. You'll see. Params.dev ID. Do that anymore. Right. With that, go ahead and pull developer data from backend. Perfect. What's the route we use for this to get the profile data, get developer data? You can check the API for me.
Localhost 8080.
What's that?
API developers.
It is. What's the verb first, though? Need the verb first.
Get.
Thank you. Yep. We're just getting data. We're not creating anything. So get the URL is a string. That's going to be our HTTP : / localhost.
And this has to be async, right?
Ah, yes, you're right. God. Developer. Sync. Good catch on that. Thank you for that, Matt. Good. Oh, also, I'm going to use the backticks because we are going to provide it a dynamic data for this URL, right? The dynamic data includes the ID number. So we want to be able to do that. So we can use string interpolation. So 8080 /API /developers / and I think it's the ID, right? Pretty sure I had, where did I have that? There it is. I think I had Postman open from yesterday, but it's loading it and not giving me what I want, actually. That's not right.
Yeah, it's ID.
No, it's not loading it. Dang it. Yeah, I lost it. Dang it. All right. But I think I'm right. Right. Developer / and we can find out actually.
Yeah, it's ID.
It's ID? Okay, good. Thank you. /$ bracket developer.id. We put in the state when we first loaded our page. Now again, we need to prove authentication on here, right?
Mhm.
Anyone remember what that code looked like, or do we need to pull it up from somewhere else? So we've used it, we've done this before, right? We've pulled our information with our auth token before. Does anyone remember how to do this? So either give me one or two things, either give me the code for this or tell me where we've done this before. Pulled data from our API with an auth token.
But we do it in Postman.
We do it there, but that doesn't help us here.
Is this where we bring in the bearer token?
Yeah.
We need the bearer token. But again, how do I add it to an axios.get?
The header.
Headers, yes.
It is headers, but there's something before it. I need to do something, not just that. I can't just type headers here. That's not enough.
We
Where do we do this elsewhere in our project?
did
We had to
this.
pull data from our API with an auth token.
Oh, we did this in developers.
There we are, right? We need to be logged in to pull the developers list, right?
Yes.
There it is. So it needs to be in an object. That was what I was looking for. It's not just headers, it's the headers inside of an object. It's the options
Almost said
object.
that.
You should have gone with it. See, trust your gut. This is the options object. Remember that. That's why it needs to be in an object first, because it's the
We still
options
need the
object.
provider, don't we?
What's that, Jim?
Still need the provider, don't we?
What provider?
Auth.
Oh, yeah, we didn't load that in yet, did we? We brought in
You
this
put
context.
the
we didn't actually
context,
bring it
but
in
you
yet.
haven't put the auth provider.
You're
in.
right. You're right. You're right. I think something between my stuff. So not a package. So import. Provider / auth provider. Auth context. Auth. Equals context. We don't need to bring in set auth because we're not going to be changing authentication on this page. We just need auth.
Yeah, now you can bring in, now you can bring in the token.
Yep. So headers, colon. Look back again at developers again. We see we do authorization and we type in the word bearers. We use the backtick trick again. So let's type that out to get that practice though. Let's not copy it. So
Could you scroll up for just, oh, there it is. Never mind. Providers, auth
Okay.
provider. There it is. Got it. Thank you.
six. There, space, $ bracket, and then auth dot token.
And authorization needs to be in quotes.
Technically doesn't need to be, but yeah, it's good to do.
Oh, okay. It's in, it doesn't need to be?
No, because it is a JavaScript object here, so JavaScript will handle it right, I believe.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I think, yeah, I think Axios will do it because Axios just converts this into a normal header
Okay.
system.
You put it
Yeah,
in
you
the
just need to
code.
provide a JavaScript, but yeah. I
Okay.
realized I did it before because I'm just so used to doing double quotes around it with these. All headers I do everywhere else is double quoted, so I just did it by habit. I don't believe it needs it because it is a JavaScript object. It's not a JSON
okay.
object.
Oh, that's
If
good
this
to
was
know.
if this was JSON, then I have to put it, but it's not JSON. It's an actual JavaScript
Hmm.
object. So, yep. And
Could
I
you
also
just
did
hold
it
here
before
for a
because yeah.
second? Mine's not working.
I also did out of habit because I did authorization. A lot of my tokens do something with a dash in it. You can't put dashes in a key. So that's why I also habitually put double quotes around my headers.
So that's
Which I'm not
optional.
happy with.
The quotes are optional.
I
All right.
Well, with all JavaScript objects, JavaScript objects, you can put quotes around your key, especially if you want your keys to have spaces or special characters in them. Need to share your screen, Matt?
Oh, wait a minute. Get. Oh, nope, I see it.
Found it?
I
All right,
think. I think.
cool.
Yeah, okay. I messed up my .get parentheses. They have to go
No
elsewhere.
worries. Last thing we need to do with this, of course, and I almost forgot about it, since this is a call that is not going to respond instantaneously, what do we need?
Anything?
And
Oh, wait.
an
There it
unders-
is. Travis got it.
oh wait.
Oh, yeah, and to follow our practices that we've been doing, we'll put the underscore here under fetch developer. You're right.
Yeah, that's
That
what
has
I
been a
was
habit we've
thinking.
been following. Yep. That's a habit we've been following. So let's add that back. Make sure we follow our habits. Stay with stay good practice. Keep our practices good. When you set a rule for yourself, keep to that styling convention. So when you set up a styling convention for yourself, stick to it. Be consistent. That's important in a company, consistency with your code. So. So far, so good.
Mhm.
Just to test it, we'll go ahead and do console.log. Data. And then also do developer, oh, sorry, set developer. Response.
So we have a developer self. If we use the self route, does it not know who we are, or does it know who we are?
Is that a authorized route?
It would be an authorized route with the token, so it should recognize that self route. So we wouldn't necessarily, okay.
Yeah,
That-
it knows who we are, but it uses the token. It identifies who the self is through the token.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we will be using later on to pull the friend list from. So we are going to eventually need that friend list to be able to determine whether or not we are friends. So yeah, this might spill into Monday. I'm thinking more and more. So next thing we need to do, of course, is make sure to run this. So underscore fetch developer. And last but not least, add the empty brackets. Be aware this thing is warning us that the auth token and developer ID are being used. And so it's saying, it's asking us, hey, because you're using these, are any of these things we need to monitor? Technically, no, but I do sometimes, just to get rid of the underscore, I'll put in set developer because that is a static item that will never change. I don't know if someone wants the developer ID. Oh.
Mine doesn't have
Auth
those. Is
token,
that an
no
extension that you have?
Potentially. ESLint is saying it. I'm not sure which extension is doing it then. Yeah, I'm not sure which extension is doing it. So you know, I'm just leave it blank though, because I would have to add them all in to get rid of that alert, and I don't care about that alert.
With the would we put the token in there if we had like the token that would expire like all the time, or we have an expired token?
You can do that if you want that the token expires, you want to clear the page. Even then, it only would run though if the token actually changes.
Right.
Remember that. So if the token expires, unless the token changes, it's not going to check it. So no. What we could say though is that if somehow the person like on the page clicks log out and we don't redirect them when they log out, we want the page to upload or to refresh and hide all the data then. That could be a reason for doing it. So it's possible you may want to monitor auth.token, saying like, hey, if the token changes because they got logged out, or they somehow changed their login, that yes, we should rerun this to see if this person is allowed to see this person. Let's say they're blocked or something. We want to make sure like, hey, we changed the access to this. So that's something you could argue. I don't really see that as being a thing that could happen because my expectation is on logout to redirect them back to the home page personally. So it's not something I would think is needed, but not a bad idea either. That makes sense. So that would be the only dependency I can think of. Any other questions on this? All right. We can't really test this page though yet because we have no way of getting to this page, of course. So let's just add the ability on our developer page to link to this. So right now, we're not actually going to display any of the person's data. What I want to know is, can I get to this page and can I pull the profile data? And if that all works, then I'm going to start adding in the layout. Because right now I can display this, and in the terminal, I can show it. What I could do also if I wanted to is do profile, comma, developer.name. When it first loads, this is going to show as undefined. So I actually forgot to say that, yeah, if you do this and it's undefined, it will actually display the text undefined. Or it'll show the name once it loads it. So let's do that. We'll save that. I'm going to add that in there for fun. I have that. I'm actually going to get rid of the auth token dependency because I don't want that there. I don't care about it. I don't see it as being a problem. But again, it wouldn't be a bad thing if you guys had it. It's not a big deal. I just don't see that as being an effect, since for me, if I log the person out, I'm redirecting them. Anyway, so that. Also, we're going to do two things.
That token thing that has that, is that when we go in, we have to do get and it asks us a question to relog in because we're getting a new token, and then this page would pop up?
One more time.
So when we're doing we go on GitHub and it asks us to relog in because we need a new token, this page would be looking for that new token to refresh because it's asking us for that.
Not quite. It wouldn't be listening because, again, you're going to go to a new screen. It's going to redirect you to a new page anyway.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's not like it's going to. Now, yes, if you had a system where if the token was invalid, you would pop up a modal window on top of the page to ask for the new login and then go through it. And that would be, then yes, I would have that here. So it depends on how you're getting that new token. In our system, I'm picturing us going to the login page, having them log in, and then they can come back and navigate here themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
but yes, in your system, if the token expires, you can have a modal pop up to say, hey, your token's expired, log back, enter your password or log back in. Once they log in, you'll get a new token. It'll get detected by the use effect, and then it'll update. So that would be where I would then again. So again, for dependencies, I also very much look at how my site is working. Moreover than what I think might belong there. I very much think about what is actually being done on my site. And I think a lot about how the user uses a site and what will happen on the site. And that's where I tend to avoid going too deep into the code of it, thinking like, oh, I have to put the dependencies here because this function definitely depends on the auth token. I think about how the site will work. We're saying, well, yes, this function works on it, but there's no way I can think of to change the token without leaving this page and not being actively on it.
I'm just saying, right now we don't have our tokens never expire, so we don't have to worry about this particular case. I was just more worried about if we did have expired tokens, that this is where we would work with. Okay.
Yeah. But even then, you would want some sort of universal function or auth provider function. So you could even, something that's interesting is in the provider. Again, I'm going to be very simple. I'll try to keep this a little simple without getting too fancy into it. In here, I can also add a function. And here, and so I can provide a function that can be run on other systems. And so what I would be doing here is, yes, inside of here, above this code here, I can do the auth.runme check for expired token. And have code in there that will do certain things. Like if it says, oh, yep, it is expired, I can then tell it to then redirect the person to the login screen or something, or open up a modal or something like that. So if you did have expirations, for those of you who are interested in doing expired tokens, for anyone like doing like medical or bank or anything we want a higher security system on your system where expiration is important, you could have the function here that can test the token to see if it's expired or not. If the front end is able to test it. So if the front end can test it, great. Otherwise, yes, then you would have to make sure that you can detect on the response came back expired token. So, anyway, there's a bunch of things you can do. And that's what's really cool about providers. Providers can also provide functions that can be run anywhere in the code. So
cool. All right, that's better. That would be better than just putting that where we had it before. That's cool.
So, other techniques, other things you can do. Again, yeah, you can, anything you build in this item can be provided as a parameter in the values. So, All that. All right, now back to what I was doing. So we want to get these items into our developers list. We want to also add an on-click expression. So in our developers, our developer item itself is a border card. If we take a look at the components that I gave you, click on, not that one, click on border card. Hey, I thought my border card had an on-click method. Did I not carry that over?
I think that was the counter card, wasn't it? That had the on click.
It did, but I thought my normal one had it too. Weird, I thought I did, maybe not. I'm curious. Did my common have it and I didn't include it because I think we built it ourselves. I think the border card is one we actually built ourselves and I didn't actually bring it over from my system because I wanted to show you guys how to build an item. So it's not the exact same one I have. Yeah, because I also have a hover system on mine. Right. Yeah, I have state hover. I have an on-click, on-mouse enter, on-mouse leave. I should give you guys my advanced border card as well. So, I'm gonna bring it over so you guys can have it. So rename it for a second. Oh, not that. That's not too bad actually. Let's do this. Common new file. So you guys don't need to do this. It'll be, you can pull it down and get it if you want. So. In. Actually, so this one offers a hoverable type as well. So if you can add if you just put the word hoverable on the border card, it can have a hover effect where the mouse goes over, it'll hover, hide up, it'll float up a second with a stronger shadow. And then, yeah, we also have the on-click. We're not going to use the hoverable, but it has it. So. But mainly I want to get the add click to it. So on-click. So we're going to, on our why am I missing this? Hold on, back to where I was. Profile, yep. So let's go ahead. Go back to developer. Now, I'm gonna switch this to be a ADV card. Oh, well, never mind, because you guys can't do that right now. All right, border card. All you're gonna do here, very, very quick. Click equals props. That's it. Once you add that, that gives it the on-click capability now. That's all you guys really need. Mind you, this will not provide a cursor pointer where it's going to show the little finger. So be aware of that. And it won't show any sort of click like features or anything that shows it's clickable or that it is actually clickable, but this does make it clickable now. That way you guys can follow along today. If you guys want to switch over to the advanced card later, you can. Do that. Back to the developer component now. And we're just going to do now, here, same thing on click equals. No, not that. Here, let me think for a second. So you get name, cohort, props a developer. In order to create the link, what should the link be, by the way? So let's think about it. Go back over here to our page, not that, this one, here we are. So what should the URL be when I click on this? Where should we go?
Developer/ID.
That's
like
what
that.
I would say. Developer
Alright.
/ID.
That sounds like a nice one. Yeah. Slash with it 9 to get Taylor and /8 to get me. So that should give us each of us. So yeah, that sounds like a good link. So on click, what we want to do is we want to move that person to that. Now, do they remember how we move someone or redirect them? How we did that?
I mean, reload a new page. That's navigate, isn't it?
Navigate sounds
That's-
like the right term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely need something from React router. Router. There you go. Remember what it was? It's going to be a use what?
Use navigate.
Yeah, use navigate. Yep. Navigate.
They still have history, dot history to go back to the previous page.
I think so. Probably navigate dot history or navigate dot go back. I don't know the exact term, but so here's my next question though. So we have it here under the developer component. Does this seem like the right place for it though? Because that means we're going to load a navigate item on every single component in the list.
No, would this go on the list itself?
Probably sounds like a better place, right?
Hmm.
And provide an on-click function to this item. So let's go back to that instead. Let's get rid of the use navigate here. Let's go back to developers now and do the same thing here now. So, import. Navigate. Navigate equals use navigate. What we'll do here is going to underneath display developers, let's add a const on select command. We'll do an on select function because it's a very common term you'll see here. So on select usually means like on click or on select. We selected something. It's a very common item. We're also going to want the ID of who was selected, right? Want to know who was selected. So we're going to set the parameter ID. And actually call it dev ID. I think that's what we did last time. Here, all I'm going to do simply is do navigate dot. Did anyone remember the command? Don't remember where else we forcefully redirected our user.
That's why I remember it, but I don't know where.
Right, that's the question. So now, so there's the thing. Either let me know what the method, the function is, or if you remember where else in our program we automatically move the person to another page. Let me know what that is.
This was, oh, it was on login.
That's right. Matt's down with this. You were the one who I think you gave me the other one too. Nice.
Which
Yep.
is great because I struggle with this stuff.
Have confidence in yourself. You seem to know what you're talking about here.
Oh, I'm surprising myself.
I said confidence. No. It's simply, there is no method, by the way. It's simply navigate and then in parentheses the item we want. Let's go ahead and use that now. So on, not profile, where'd it go? Developers, there it is. Let's navigate, not dot. Let's see. And take a look here. So two and then options. And options is probably where we put it. So let's say we're not sure though. Let's do right here. I want to make sure you guys understand how I do this stuff. So React router, DOM, use navigate. Use navigate. Success, replace true. What other options can we use?
Success. Replace state.
And state.
State where?
Didn't use, we'll see if that one works actually, because I don't like the fact that it uses the term state, not params. I was waiting for the word params. I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I expected. But we'll use state. See if that actually is pullable by use params. If not, we'll have to figure out how it pulls. But I want to use.
Doesn't it go further down, show you how to use params?
Yeah, it does right there. We've already done it.
Down,
But it does say, it says we're matched by the route path. Child routes inherit all params from their parent routes. So That we'd have to check on.
User ID.
Oh no, I'm being dumb. That's not how we're gonna send it. Right, because it's route 2. So you have to catch it by the route. So this is just creating the URL. This is the URL. We're not actually giving it the params here. We're doing navigate / developers. Do backtick, sorry. / dev ID. Remember, that's what you guys gave me. Right. We're just sending them to a URL. We're not passing parameters here. Right. I'm being dumb. You don't pass parameters here. We're just doing this. Right. Make sense?
Can you scroll up quickly to where we declared the navigate?
Line 12.
Instantiated, I should say. Okay, it is just like that. Perfect.
Yep. Const navigate equals use navigate. Yep.
Nice.
I'm still having flashbacks to why I used to do this stuff. So it just gives the URL, and then the route is how we can pass the dynamic data from the URL into the params. So you'll see that in 2 seconds. Back here, so you guys can see that. So use, we want route. Route. Element, path element, or the dynamic ones. There it is. Oh, kind of. Yeah, like that. So then you see here, just like we've done before, take a look at that. That look familiar, right?
Yeah.
So there you go, dynamic path, and that's a param. Okay, so now knowing how that looks, we can make our new route on our router. First, let's finish up what we're doing here. So on select, we navigate. Now we have to make sure this gets passed to the developer object. So up here, developer key, we'll do on select equals select. Makes sense? So far so good.
Display developer. That's in display developers, right?
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and hide that for a second, so that way it shows a little better. Pull this over a little. There we go.
Jeez, keep doing that. Select equals
On select. And remember, we're not running it here. We're just sending that function down so it can be ran later. So that's why we don't need to provide any sort of parameters here. We don't need to give it the dev ID here because we don't have that yet.
Right.
We're not calling the function. We're just sending the function down. So we're sending a reference to the function. That's why we don't provide the parentheses. Once you include the parentheses, that activates the function, doesn't send the function. So right now we're just sending the function down. You're on developer now. We're going to simply do, here we'll just do, let's pull the ID from our developer. So cohort, comma, ID. And since again, this is an object, so we're pulling it by key. So the order doesn't matter. Even though we know in our head, ID's first, well, since we're pulling by key, the order of these don't matter. And I want to make sure that's very clear by doing that here. So I was very habitually ready to add it to the front, but I want to make sure I don't set those weird rules in your head. I don't want you thinking that that's a rule, that's a requirement. When it's an object, the order does not matter. We're pulling by key. On border card, we're going to add on click. It's going to be equal to bracket props dot on select. Ooh, also can do this. Select I. Remember, we want the onClick to run this, not run the result. So this is an inline function execution.
Aha. That's what I'm missing.
Just to clarify again, if I was to do this, it's going to run this function and assign onClick to whatever the result of this is. That's not what we want. We want onClick to run this function, so I put it inside a function. I can also do it very simple by, I can also do very similar by doing on select const select equals select. And this will be identical to doing this.
Uh-huh.
So two ways of doing it, whatever way looks better to use. So onSelect connects it to this function, which will then run. Or I can run the one that was sent in. They're identical. All right. For something as simple as this, I'm perfectly fine doing the inline execution. Save everything. So the file save all. Oh, good, they're all saved. Nice. Yeah. Just review what we've added so far. So we did get some sidetracked items. So I'm going to clean up some stuff and double check and clarify what we did all together. So first thing is we made our border card clickable by simply adding a onClick equals props.onClick. That, and that. On our profile, we've set up the basic HTML, basic H1 with a developer name, and we created a function to pull a developer based on the ID that was sent in to the URL. Not exactly sure how this is going yet, but we have that. On our developers list, we've added in the onSelect to navigate to the developer that's selected. What is provided to the function, and we pass this function down to each and every individual component so that the component can execute that with its own ID number. So every single developer here will get its own version of the onSelect. We'll run that version of onSelect with its own ID number, but we're not making multiple onSelects and we're not making multiple navigate objects, which is key. So we're not using up the memory. Once we actually click on one, it will run this function and navigate them to the /developer/dev-id, which right now we do not have a route. So it's the last thing we're going to do now is go to our router and add that new path. How does that look?
Why colon dev ID?
So think about, before someone else sends an answer yet, I want to see if I can help Travis to figure it out. Why do we do, have we done something like this before in a URL? Something similar to this. We've used special characters.
Right, not in React, but we used something similar to this wrapped in brackets for path parameters.
On Spring Boot, right? On Spring Boot, we used curly brackets to identify an object, right? Or to identify a path variable, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is JavaScript's variation of that. So unfortunately, for the rest of you, since we didn't do the MERN stack, Express uses this syntax, which is JavaScript's system as well, which is why React uses this. This is the JavaScript way of doing, the common way of JavaScript identifying URL path parameters.
All right. Either I forgot that or just...
No, because I realized it wasn't as recognizable as for you guys as it is for me. I'm familiar with it with Express, and I forgot that Java uses the curly brackets. So I should have clarified that a bit better. Yeah, this is just JavaScript's version of the curly brackets that Spring Boot did.
Gotcha.
So by doing the colon, this becomes a param.
When you get a second, Cliff, could you go to profile? Because I'm getting an error on mine, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, I think that's something I missed. Sure is.
I saved my router. I'll do save all in a second. I don't know. Save all.
Okay, did I do that right now? Okay, and then the other one. Is params. Where's that? Oh, there. Oh, params equals use params. That's also. Nope. Okay, I cleared up 2 errors, but I got one more. Maybe you can help me out with this.
Of course. Go for it.
Let's see what I'm missing. I don't even know what to make of this.
I see one right off the bat.
Okay, what's up?
In your where you define your const developer set, that should you're missing. There's a typo.
There
Missing a
certainly is.
So that might be part of the issue, maybe.
All right, so now I'm not calling it anywhere. Yep.
Yeah.
LOPR. Nope. That would be a problem, but that's not the problem.
It's telling us that the error is on line 13.
Oh, it,
Oh, sorry, line 9. Sorry.
oh,
Line 9.
okay.
Fine, no.
All right, so it is still here. Okay.
All right. Expected an assignment or function call, instead saw an expression. Wait, yeah, why is your use state a function?
Is it no, that means it's not supposed to be, but that
It's just an object.
yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
not a function, just an object. Use effect is a function. Use state is not.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
No worries. That one would have been tricky for everyone else to find. I was like, I could wait for that one. That one's gonna be a tricky one. So.
No, the spelling error alone was very helpful. So thank you for that.
Yes, that definitely would help help against annoyances later. Yeah, you can see right here. Yeah, use state, no function call. Good. Okay, so let's see if this all works now. So we have everything in there. Let's pop over here quick. I'm gonna refresh, which is gonna log us out. Let's log in. 20. Test. Click the enter button. Again, nothing here is hinting that these are clickable. But let's go ahead and click Cliff 10. Take a look.
Cool.
Go back a page. And let's click on Taylor. There he is. 11, 13. Looks like we're getting the data we want.
It's interesting how slow it was when you clicked on the first one.
Just said, I want. Where did that come from?
Oh, it's just just interesting how slow the first one came in, but how quick the other ones came in when you clicked after the fact.
Yeah. Caching can help probably with that, I think.
Huh.
All right, so
mine
now the error
didn't
checking
work.
time.
Yeah, mine didn't work again.
Stopping. I'm curious how it didn't work.
I am too. I clicked on one and I get an empty page and it says no routes match. Oh, why is it doing this twice?
Let's check.
Interesting.
So that's on the on click. So let's go to your developer. Developers. The plural one, sorry.
Oh, developers.
Yes. Oh, you need a slash in front of navigate. So
Oh.
because there's, so hold on, before you do anything, because there's no slash there, it's going to append that to the existing URL.
Oh, so that has to go
Right,
there.
because you're already in developers, it then appends the slash developer slash dev ID. By starting with a slash, it appends it to local to the
No,
host
That's not gonna
directory.
work.
Nope.
All right. I have to
Go to developers again. Yeah.
I have to-
log in.
Yep, I'm gonna do that. Let's see.
Do we get to see it work?
Well, because I have so many logins on this thing, I don't remember any of them. So instead of going to log in, I go to register every time.
Oh God. Why do you think I use the basic password of just test?
Well, it's the email as the username that I never remember.
Oh. Same thing. That's why I use cliff something dot test at test.com. I use a very generic, rememberable item, and I use it on all systems I do this stuff with.
All right. Now that
I
I'm
gotta-
in, let's see if this works.
And that's what happened to me. I started forgetting. I was like,
Uh-oh.
you know what? I'm gonna make Hocus Pocus and make Berlin. That's the only one I can remember now.
So
Oh,
you
now it
did
still doesn't
redirect
work.
correctly, but now it's saying the no route smash. Did you update the router?
Yes.
Let's go take a look at your router then.
Zoom, go move. Ah.
I hate that. I
Put
see
the
it.
Slash.
What?
Is there supposed to be a
More
slash?
details.
Is there supposed to be a slash on line 25?
Before the
details.
colon?
Of course, yeah. It's a slash route.
Oh.
Yep.
Breadcrumbs.
Is this because it hasn't refreshed yet, or
Probably just hit. No, it looks like it did, but just hit the enter key again on the item. So just click on the browser. Or click the back arrow one. Sorry, click the back arrow. Click on another one. And then your server though is sending back a 404.
Uncut
what
promise.
in the world? Okay, these are just my logins, but I'm not getting
404 meaning you didn't find a developer with
right.
that ID.
odd.
So that would mean your get route is acting up. So let's look at your get route.
In here? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Under
Zoom,
the
get
developer
out of the way.
controller.
Yep. Developer controller. Yoink. Get mapping. I want
ID right there. Why is it commented out? Oh, there we go. It's right here. Okay, that one.
No, it's down here.
Okay.
Oh, is this the this is Geeky Likes?
Mhm. The current developer and the developer we're trying to pull. Scroll down a little more.
Is this the right one? Because this is relationships.
It involves relationships, but because we only want to pull a
Okay.
different profile depending on whether they're friends or not. Remember?
That's right. Okay.
Yep. But it's
But
in
you
fact
did have
not
one called
found.
Dev ID. You did have well, was that a post or a get of Dev ID? You've got
Get
ID,
ID.
and then you've got a Dev ID. Oh,
This is
that's a
likes.
like. That's a like. Sorry.
Yep.
Let's check Postman quick.
Okay.
Make sure Postman's happy. So we'll check on that next.
And hope that nothing crashes. That'd be cool.
While that's loading, if you want. Oh no, it's already good. Cool.
Here we are. Okay. Where am I? Oh, be
You can just
gone.
do that route right there. That one right there. Just switch it to a get. Because you're already logged in on this. Just do get developer slash which profile were you trying to load there?
I
9 or
believe it
something?
was 9.
Yeah, I thought so.
9.
9. Yep.
Yeah, 9.
Does
I see right there. Right above it. Yeah, right there.
I don't.
API
oh yeah, there
developers
it is.
9.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Developers 9.
Send. Yep, we're gonna get
Not found.
404. Let's go back to your IntelliJ code.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get all the developers just get all of them? Just see if they all exist.
So just do that.
ID 9.
So, yeah, you should pull. So let's go back to the IntelliJ code now.
Okay.
What I would like
Yeah.
to know is it a 404 from the line 91 or 93, or is it a 404 from IntelliJ? So is it not finding the route? Oh, that should be a
Okay.
different error, right? What was the error
Yeah.
message again? Go back to Postman again.
It was a 40.
Said
oh,
it didn't
let me
say
just-
9. Yeah.
9.
Did it say method not allowed? No, it's just not.
No,
found.
it's a
Okay.
404.
So the method's allowed, so it is hitting this. That means either line 91 or 93 is not running correctly.
Okay.
Hold on.
I mean, I don't know if mine's different, but on my line 93, instead of find user by ID, I just have find by ID.
No, I know what he's doing wrong. It's find by ID, not user ID.
Oh.
Line 91, the developer we're looking for, we have their actual ID number, not their user ID. The user ID is only for the logged in user. So yes, we don't have a user ID of 9. Well, we might, but that's not going to be might not be Freddy.
Right, Matt, that's right.
So, yep, you're looking for the developer ID there, developer ID.
Okay.
Good grab there, Travis. You caught that 2 seconds before I did. Nicely
Right.
done.
It compiled. That's the first victory.
Let's hit this again. There's
Hey,
Freddy.
alright.
Let's
So
go
we
to your
get that.
friend.
Let's refresh this.
I wouldn't refresh because that's going to log you out.
It is?
Yep.
Oh, great.
Sign up another.
Create
You
another.
just created it. You can't remember what you just
I
typed
don't
in.
No, because I.
Can we
because-
see your database? I'm just curious how many logins.
Oh, it's gonna be a disaster.
Oh, that's
That runs
why
on
you just
dry
do
space
that.
because the
Yes, it
database
is.
Too big.
I gotta get rid of those. Don't
Yeah,
need those
it's fine.
anymore.
The
Click
alerts.
on that. Hey,
There he is. You're good.
all right. Phenomenal. Thank you all.
I think Matt has a lot of data I can steal and mine.
Have at it. All the test random numbers at test.test. Have fun with it.
That's good. It's already a pre-built database that I don't have to worry about.
I'm gonna eventually I'm gonna drop it and just repopulate it because it's just gonna be a nightmare. But my testing strategy for this is not phenomenal.
So you could export that. You could go to the table in there and export it as a CSV, and then you could just have that as a backup, and then you can always import it again if you just needed something, some random data, a lot of data that you just needed to populate.
Awesome. Anybody else have any problems, any errors that we need to look at?
Just me? All right, phenomenal.
Some people aren't coding along. I know they aren't. They're probably going to ask me questions on Monday, which you better be asking questions if you guys aren't. If you're not coding along actively and you do it over the weekend, you need to ask questions. So
I've actually been trying to do this for like a week, so this is clarifying a lot of stuff for me.
Good. Well, I like to hear that my lessons are not wasting time, not a waste of time. All right, so let's quickly update a little bit of information on this. Now let's take a look though first. So we'll go back to here. I'm going to click on Taylor. If we go into here, actually, we can take a look and see what data I got actually. So if I go back to inspect and I take a look on the console and I look at the object I got, take a look. I got his friend list.
Yeah.
You are friends with 13 as well. I forgot you actually friended another one too. But if I go to 8 now, myself, that's myself. Let's go to number 13. Let's go to, I don't know, 6. That one doesn't exist. Of course not. 5. No. Oh, I'm not logged in because I did that. Ah, damn me.
Will it let you look at other ones even though you're not?
No, I can't. I'm not logged in when I do from the URL because I didn't walk you guys through local storage yet. So I can't use the URL to type directly in because it won't. It reloads React. So let's click on this one. We'll see here because I'm not friends with this one yet. Oh, I did look at the friend object. Wait, what? I shouldn't be. That should be giving me back no friends, I thought. I'm not friends with them, right?
Friends you got there with now. You should be friends.
I am friends with this person. Okay, so 13 I am friends with. Taylor is. Blah, blah, blah. Taylor's friends with 13. So I shouldn't see this though, I thought. This is pulling. Go back to network quick. Just take a look again. This is doing this. Developer/7. Let's do this quick. Come back over here to IntelliJ. Where are you? Thank you. Over there. So go here quick. Double check my code. Actually, I might have a bug on this actually. Let's find out. I should not be. I should be getting different items. I thought I did. Didn't we? Did we tested that? I thought. So here I should get the friend developer and public developer. Public developer does not include a friends list. So I should be getting this one on the other people. So I'm wondering if this is giving a false positive now. One of these is giving a false positive. We can find out. Let's go ahead and do some Postman testing. Let's do some testing. Close, man.
But if there's nothing accepted, how does that,
Here quick. I'm signed in as myself, so grab this token. Go over here. Authorization. Here a token. Scan. Host. Developers. We'll do that first. Let me see here. Yeah, no friend lists on some of the on these. Good. Now, if I go after number 5 here, I don't think I have anything there, so I shouldn't get a friend list. So send. I did. Oh, because I am friends. That's the one I'm friends with. Right. Okay. Of course, pick the one I'm friends with. 2. Okay, so okay, I got an empty friends list, which I shouldn't be getting though, because that object doesn't have a friends object, if I remember correctly. So if I remember correctly, in our IntelliJ, the public developer doesn't even have a friends key, does it? Developer. No, so yeah, I'm getting that. So that means I'm getting a false positive. God dang it.
I'm not. Wonder what yours is doing.
So exists. So let's do this quick. That's out. Which one is giving me a true? It shouldn't be. So one of these is giving me a true that shouldn't be. Is what I'm expecting. Once I find out which one is, I can then find out why it is. Hopefully. I'll merge that into the other ones here for a second. That here, and then drag and drop into this. Wait a minute, what did you do? Yeah. Okay. That's unexpected. That I've never seen before. What that is. I want to close you. Okay.
That's a Lovecraftian horror. The void.
Seriously, I don't even know what it is.
Stare into the abyss.
I lost my intelligence.
It all comes back around, baby.
That's horrific. Oh my god, that's terrifying.
If I crash, we'll have to come back to this.
Yikes.
God dang it. I'm annoyed now. That means everything was just lost again, but it's fine. Sign in again. Reboot my Chrome after this. Token, put that in. Host. Developers. /2. Get it. Go back to IntelliJ though. Oh, double false.
Then
You didn't get friends on that list last time.
I didn't? Wait, what? I
I
did.
don't see friends on there.
The hell?
what?
What is going on?
Right.
Did I not oh wait, did I not reboot my program after running all that, after coding that code? I don't think I reran my program.
Whoops.
That would explain why Matt was in.
Thanks, Matt, for getting the hand, for giving me a face palm.
He's one of us, guys. He does the same thing.
Exactly. See, so you don't feel bad about you having the only error last time. Now I had an error that was completely not an error. I had a code that was completely not even needed. My code was fine. In those situations, I don't know how to feel because I'm like, oh, good, my code was good, and at the same time, I'm like, but I
also-
wasted time.
Or science.
My code was good. My brain just compiled it wrong.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, yep, it works now, of course. Back to our React app now, just to confirm that this is all working as expected. Developers, if I click on this one and go back to the console, see, yes, no friends. I go back to developers now and click on Taylor. We'll see, I got friends. I see Taylor's friends. There we are. I can see Taylor's friends. So exactly what we want to see, exactly what we're expecting. And this is the data that we now have. So that means we're able to go ahead and build out our item. However, it is already 9:04, which is great. So might do some. I think what else if we can do anything now. Probably not. So yeah, we got to do all the code here, all the front end code. Main thing though, I want to make sure you guys see though, is that we've pulled a single item now.
Mhm.
So you see how we pull a single item. We have this right here. The last thing I'm going to do very quick though is this. So loading true. Loading false. Surround this in the div we've used before. So we'll go ahead and grab that div that we used, which I really just set up as just the container, but I keep forgetting to because I don't think of it.
That's profile.
Grab that. Yeah, just grab it from any page. You guys have it somewhere, I'm sure. I can do right here, very simple. Loading. Bring in the spinner. No, that's not what I wanted. Isn't that what I called it? Oh, just spinner. Okay. Slot spinner. Spinner. Colon. C's.
Spinner's always ternary functions.
What's that?
Is spinner's always a ternary function?
Most commonly, because it's usually only there for a temporary use for while we're loading the new data. So very commonly, spinner is part of a ternary because it's always set to be used as a placeholder. It's only there for a temporary time frame. Very rarely are spinners there indefinitely. So 9 times out of 10, spinner is a ternary expression inside of one. So if loading, show the spinner. Otherwise, load the names. So if I save that quick, go back to developers quick, click on this one. We see very, very fast, which does not help to kind of see it, but you see it pop there for like 2 seconds. Well, not even half a second, really. 2 seconds would be way longer. Half a second, and it's gone. But we do see that nice little spinner there for a couple seconds while it loads the profile. And so we'll go ahead and actually add some more elements on Monday as our final React thing. What I want to do for the weekend, because the first hour of that class is going to be OpenShift preparation, so OpenShift discussion. So for your homework for this weekend, again, continue working on your project. So I'm going to do another, again, same thing as before. You want to work at least, what I would say your minimum should be 30 minutes a day during the break. So you should spend about an hour and a half minimum on your projects for the weekend, each weekend. You get to dictate how that hour and a half goes in. So you can do it all on one day, split over 2 days, do it on, but I personally recommend you should touch your code every day over the weekend. Try to do 30 minutes each day. That way it's manageable. But the goal, of course, of that is if you tell yourself I'm going to code for 30 minutes, it's much easier to easily go past that once you start. And that's the key goal of this. By telling yourself, I'm just going to code for 30 minutes, it's very easy once you start to go for an hour or two. At least for me, that's how it works for me. I always say I was going to code quick and then I go cook dinner. And I'm like, oh, I gotta go cook dinner because I end up coding for a bit longer because I get on a roll. For me, I know that within half an hour, I can get into the zone and code longer if I'm gonna hit it. If not, at least in 30 minutes, I know if I'm not in the zone and I'm not getting stuff done, I know, okay, go for a quick walk, come back, try again, or at least, you know what, today's not working. I got too much on my mind. Let me figure that out, try again later. So that's what I had to say. That's my biggest recommendation for you guys. Set a requirement of 30 minutes for yourself. You're gonna code for 30 minutes. And that'll make it so you easily go beyond that. What I would say, of course, is when you do that code for 30 minutes, even though I just said you want to do a minimum of an hour and a half this weekend, don't count the extra time towards that hour and a half personally. And that way you're still challenged to keep doing it every day. If you do it on the day one, you're like 30 minutes. Hey, I did 3 hours. I don't have to code for the rest of the weekend. Don't think like that. Try to do it 30 minutes a day. You definitely want your minimum for the weekend to be an hour and a half. But definitely the real goal should be the coding for 30 minutes a day, not for the hour and a half minimum. That should be your real goal. The other type of your homework for the day that's not coding based is to research OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift. What is it? What is the purpose behind it? Find articles on it, understand it, and be able to explain in one paragraph of your own words what OpenShift is. What is Red Hat OpenShift? And dig in as much as you can. Save these articles. You can share them with your classmates if people had trouble finding out details. Feel free to create an account on theirs. Whatever you want to do. If you can't create an account, go for that. Find out what you can about that, about Red Hat and OpenShift. So let's see if anyone here knows what Red Hat is. That should be a term that a lot of people know, especially the developers. You should know the term Red Hat. That is a very common, it's a company that's been around for a long time. What is Red Hat?
Isn't Red Hat like I remember doing a little bit of research before the hackathon because I didn't know if I was participating or not. And I remember I had to sign in through Red Hat to do the OpenShift.
Red Hat is a company, so I'll give you that.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, no, I don't.
Anybody know who Red Hat
servers.
is? What is that one more time?
Linux servers.
Yeah, they provide a distribution of Linux.
Like I remember seeing a lot Red Hat OpenShift.
Red Hat is a Linux distributor.
Yeah, their Linux has been out since like the 80s and 90s. They've been out for quite some time.
Yes, Red Hat is a version of Linux. It's not as popular as it used to be. Right now, the biggest one is Ubuntu, of course. Ubuntu, Debian, those are kind of the big ones right now. But Red Hat still has a lot of popularity, especially on the server side because of their server side concepts. In enterprise, Red Hat is an enterprise Linux. Ubuntu and Debian are not considered enterprise level. So they're not really considered a Linux for large scale corporations. So Red Hat is usually what you go to once you become a large scale company, instead of using Ubuntu or Debian. You'll go from Ubuntu, Debian, or I think it's Debian. Is that how you say it? That's how I've said it. Am I right? Okay, good. I realized I'm saying this, I'm like, I've never actually looked up how to pronounce it. And I know developers sometimes would be weird and wonky. GIF versus GIF.
I always say Debian. I always think Debian seems to be the one.
Just look at the GIF versus GIF war. So, and that's all you got to look at.
Oh, no.
Actually,
that's all you got to look at.
The one is ask Linus how to say Linux.
Who?
Ask Linus. The guy who invented Linux. I say Linux as Linux.
What does he say?
Well, look it up. He actually says how to say Linux. It's really it's. I mean,
does somebody say it differently?
We say Linux or other things, but there's.
It's Linux. What do you mean Linux?
Yeah, it's not Linux Tech Tips.
Well, you learned it just from the 90s.
Yeah, Linus Tech Tips. Nice. What a YouTuber.
Oh, man.
But yeah, Linux. I was like, I've never heard anybody say Linux. That's weird. Okay, whatever. Oh yeah, Debian, Ubuntu are very common, open source, everyday user, and even developer like startup tool to use. It's very easy to get started with it, very easy to use, very quick to get it up and running, and has a lot of consumer support. So for the everyday person, there's a lot of support tools out there to help you use Ubuntu and Debian, and has a lot of consumer tools for the everyday computer user, not for companies. Not that you can't get company level stuff on it, but it's just, it wasn't designed around that. And the community that is supporting Debian and Ubuntu are not meant for enterprise or large scale corporation kind of development. Enterprise Red Hat is actually a company that supports Linux, that works on Linux and does enterprise level work. So they provide enterprise level support. They build Linux in a way that is supposed to support enterprise level functionality. So for corporations, think Facebook, Google, those kind of those scale. Now those guys might make their own Linux distribution, but think of it as like larger scale companies like Citizens Bank, for example. They're large, but not a tech company. So it's unlikely that Citizens would create their own Linux distribution. They wouldn't have a Citizens Google or Citizens Linux, where Google very likely could have a Google Linux. Facebook could very likely have a Facebook Linux, where they create their own distribution. So it's minimal. But yeah, Citizens. Why can't I think of big Abercrombie and Fitch, The Gap, these kind of companies who would want to benefit from the speed of Linux on their servers, but aren't going to want to have such an open source, widely used item such as Ubuntu and Debian, which have a lot of can also be very heavily targeted by hackers. So Red Hat is a more enterprise level Linux, and that is their one of their flagship items for the longest time. And now they're working into the hosting environment and hosting domain. Let's see if anyone else knows anything else. Who owns Red Hat right now?
IBM.
IBM.
Hey, very well done. Nice. IBM bought Red Hat. Yes. So
thank you for replying that quickly, because I was about to say Oracle.
Why would you admit to that?
Hey, you know,
at least he's not embarrassed.
I'm trying to keep it honest.
Keep it honest. Keep it honest. I can respect that. But yes, IBM bought them out, which was one of the fascinating things I found by them, by the way, and a thing that I give respect for Red Hat. When you go to their options on where to run Red Hat from, IBM is not the first item on their list. They actually put AWS on top and Google after that, and then IBM is like the second, third, or fourth option. So the fact that hosting their Red Hat system on IBM is not the first option with like flags and stars all around it, I got to give them very big respect for that. That they recognize that their hosting environment isn't one of the top hosting environments, and so they shouldn't they're not trying to push that in a kind of a gray hat sort of way, which is, I wouldn't blame them for putting it there. That wouldn't really be considered black hat to do that. I would say probably gray hat to push your owner at the top, but not wrong, not illegal, not bad. I wouldn't call that black hat. Yeah, very impressive. So good company. Take a look at the company, take a look at the product. Definitely take a look at OpenShift, see what things are, what options, why would people want to use it? Why would a company use OpenShift? That is some key questions you want to be able to answer. Why would someone use OpenShift? What is OpenShift? What are some benefits behind it? What are some of the key benefits of a company using OpenShift? And for a hacker level kind of questions, why would they choose OpenShift over just standard AWS? Or why would they use OpenShift instead of just doing it themselves? What are some of the main reasons for that? Really find a competitor and see why would they use OpenShift over a competitor. So those are some hacker level questions you can look at. What are some competitors to OpenShift, and why would you use OpenShift over the competitor? In order to answer that question, of course, you need to know what OpenShift is. So that's why I'm saying that's a hacker level question, because you have to first answer the first questions before you can answer that one. Any questions on what we've done so far? Or any questions on that? Last thing I will say, by the way, for anyone who maybe is caught up on Darknet Diaries and is looking for a second podcast, by the way, now that we're getting into this area, Command Line Heroes, I think the first season does talk a bit about the console war and about Mac versus app versus Windows versus Linux. And you'll learn a bit about how Linux became a thing and how that whole environment came to play and how the open source community is actually so as strong and as vibrant as it is today and why it will never go away. So I never listened to the second, I haven't really done too much of the other seasons of Command Line Heroes. I want to, but I'm also still behind on Darknet. So I haven't really got to it, but the first season of Command Line Heroes was really nice just to hear about the console wars, learn the origins of Linux and Ubuntu and and even hear a little bit about Red Hat and just the origins of Linux and the open source community and how that became such a big thing. And then of course the hacker community too. So really good series there. Another for anyone who has caught up on Darknet, it just needs another entertaining tech related podcast that I enjoyed listening to. That would be the one I would recommend. Command Line Heroes. All right.
So you give yourself a half an hour for the coding thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
To start.
Wow, that's
very
a long time. That's
What?
a way long time.
What are you talking about?
I only give myself 5 minutes and then I'm on for like 8 hours. I said I'm gonna sit down for 5 minutes to code this. 10 hours later, I'm like, what the hell? That was 5 minutes?
Well, the thing is, I say 30 minutes because then I don't care to look at the clock. Because 5 minutes, I can watch the clock. I can keep picking at the clock to do it. Even then, within like 10 minutes, yeah, I'm usually gone. But I will say, because of my ADD, I like to give myself the longer time to make sure that my hyper focus triggers. I want my hyper focus to trigger. I want my hyper focus to trigger. But find whatever works for you. If you only need 5 minutes, then yeah, tell yourself every day 5 minutes. I got to code.
Yeah.
The main purpose of that minimal is to keep it small enough where you feel like you can do it. But the goal is really to start you coding so that you fall into the zone and code for a couple hours. That's the real goal of the small term goal, of the small term target, to make sure you get it. So just to get you in front of your computer.
It's like I go in and focus on this tiny little piece, but then it either goes either bugs and then I got to repair it, or it just keeps blossoming, keeps going.
Never tell yourself what you're trying to accomplish with the reason to go sit down and code. Just go code. It's not about what you're trying. Don't set a certain, like, I need to get this work and get that done, because sometimes the dauntingness of that task can prevent you from having the motivation to do it. You can get lost in the weeds of focusing on what you're trying to do. Your goal is just to code something and just work on something. So keep the plan, keep the ideas small and simple so that it's easy to complete them. I've actually been doing well with my Spanish, not amazing, but well. On Wednesday, I restarted my Rosetta Stone because I hadn't done it in a while. So I kind of refreshed myself, reminded myself how to like ask someone what they're doing, haciendo and stuff like that. So it's like, hey,
¿Qué estás haciendo?
It's more like
¿qué estás haciendo?
It's more to me when I'm working on the project, like I'm focusing on this one little task that I'm working on, like adding roles or something. And I'm like, I need to do this, because if I don't do it now, then I'll forget about it. And then like hours later, I'll be like, I will not even remember what I was doing or even have a thought. And I need to
don't target a task. Just start coding.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just need to get done, need to stop doing it, and then go from there.
Good.
That's how I've been doing my work. I've been focusing on at least trying to accomplish an hour or 2 hours within the days I know I can fit those in. And if I'm over or under a little bit by that 2 hour mark, so long as I feel accomplished or I've got questions and I progress with what I've worked on, I feel good enough walking away when I get those opportunities.
Yeah, that's the key. Mainly just got to get you in front of a computer and start typing. As long as you can do that, I'm happy. But the main thing is just making sure you're doing that every day. And that can be difficult. I know it can be, but we're near the end. And if you guys do that, the end comes sooner. If you can't do it, the end becomes farther away. So that's the main thing to keep in mind. Like, just again, think about a long hike. If it's a long hike, it's going to take its time. It looks like I'm never going to make it to the end. But as long as you start walking, it's easier to keep walking, and you'll get to that end sooner. But if you ever go a day or you ever go for a long period of time that you're not walking, you're not getting closer at all. And what's different about where this analogy doesn't work though is, unlike a hike, if you don't do it, you could actually even fall behind. You could actually fall back a bit because you get rusty. So keep up with it, keep working on it. Everyone's starting to pop off, so that's fine. I think I'm recording this whole time. Dang it,
Yeah.
long ending.